Starting off, welcome to meet the NTLA board. Not quite all of us yet, but like I said, they're going to be trickling in here in a few minutes. This session is actually for you guys to reach out to us, ask us what you would like to see done at the conference, what we can improve on, what we can be better at, what things we're missing, things that you guys want to see at the conference every year. I hope that you guys have some questions, you're interactive with me, because I'll probably pick on you, more than likely. But you know, ultimately we want to try and find out how we can make this conference better every year. That's the purpose of this session. We kind of rack our brains every year to try and provide, you know, the best sessions that we possibly can, but sometimes we realize that there's some things in certain regions, certain parts of the country that we're missing. So that's what we hope to hear from you guys. Would you guys like to introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm Karen Woodard. I'm the Realty Administrator for the Morongo Band of Mission Indians. I've been an NTLA board member for, this is my 9th year. And I got involved because there was no program out there for Indian land professionals. There was no education out there. There was no networking. And I think that's kind of how the group got started. We wanted to create this conference so individuals could learn more about their career, have an outlet to, you know, get information, and just kind of make it a huge networking group. And I think we've done really well at that. We've done a good job over the last 9 years, but there's always room for improvement. So we really appreciate your guys' input, and feel free to tell us what we need to do to improve.
Hi, I'm Katie. I'm from Osage, and we recently compacted Realty, and luckily this is my 2nd year, and my 1st year on, I was brand new to compacting. I had a lot of questions that were not answered at my agency, and I benefited tremendously from being a part of this group, this organization, and I'm telling you, you know, some of you would know that your friends or your spouses or your significant others, they don't really want to hear what you do for a living. They don't understand the trials and tribulations of it. And it's nice to be able to discuss your issues or your concerns with compacting and tribal realty in general, and, you know, sustaining or actually improving these programs for the future and for our landowners, because ultimately that's why I'm here. So, thank you.
And my name is Matt Massillin. I'm a realty specialist with the Morongo Band of Mission Indians. I've been a part of the board for 5 years now. And this organization, to me, it means an immense deal because, well, frankly, I got a job out of it. I've met a bunch of amazing different people all across this country through this organization. I've networked, I've figured out problems to things that I was working on through mutually knowing all of these people on the board. And then not only that, through individuals like yourself, just sitting here meeting you, talking with you, hearing the problems that you guys have day to day. That's what we do this for. We do this to really benefit and give something out to the community that isn't there. And I'm sure the majority of you were probably trained just on the job, I would assume. Show of hands, anybody? 1, 2, 3. See, that's kind of how it works. There is no educational opportunity, so this is what NTLA is all about. So ultimately, you know, what I would like to start off with at least is just kind of by a show of hands, how do you guys feel that the sessions were this year? Were they good? Now, out of all of you, which one, you know, is there maybe somebody here that thinks that you know, one of the sessions wasn't quite up to snuff or something where they might have missed some things? Does anybody have anything that they'd like to talk about as far as any of the sessions they've been to? I'm gonna pick on you. I swear, I'm just gonna start handing mics out here. I'll go over here. Yeah. Slide by here.
The one session that it was on the very first day, appraising Indian land, issues and procedures. There were some things that came out in that session that the speakers or the facilitators were talking about that were kind of contrary to what my understanding of appraising how it went.
I was in on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was different. It's a different practice than what I'm used to. I wasn't really sure where they were going with that.
And I don't know if it could be maybe, I was thinking maybe a BIA regional difference.
And that
In
it very well
interpreting?
could be. You know, the surface contracts in general are very different in Montana versus Pawhuska, Oklahoma. You know.
Yeah. And that might have been it too, but that,
So
But-
maybe if
but
we could
that's-
do like a regional specific at some point, you know, like a breakdown like within that session or something that would, you know, maybe be beneficial, you know, just a slide per each, you know, if there's differences in the regions, you know.
yeah, or maybe even different panelists from the different regions.
That would be nice. Do it, you know, like
just
a round table almost.
Yeah, that might be helpful. But that's what this is all about too. You hear different perspectives. And that's what I find interesting about the conference.
Oh, here comes the rest of the board. Come on down. We got seats for you right up front.
The price is right.
Yes. Why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourself real quick, and then we'll get back on to what we were talking about.
Good morning. My name is Kathy Colby, and I'm from the Shoshone tribes of Fort Hall, Idaho. And I work on land acquisitions and the Tribal Administration Department. Thank you.
My name is Nicholas Simmons. I'm a program officer with the Indian Land Tenure Foundation. At the foundation, I help to plan this conference in addition to working on a variety of the foundation's education programming.
And don't let Nick fool you. Nick is the reason that this conference happens every year. He is the backbone of all of this. So every year, you know, we work with ILTF to get this conference going, and Nick is our point of contact. And so a lot of the heavy lifting is done by Nick. So thank you, Nick, very much. Before you guys walked in, we were kind of asking everybody what sessions, did they like, and what could we improve in those sessions. So as far as the appraisals things go, and all of our sessions like that, it is very hard to be specific sometimes about within each region or each state for that matter. And so we try to be as broad as we can because we're trying to, work within the overall, but every year we kind of hear something similar is that we wish it was a little bit more specific to the region that we were in. So that's definitely something that we need to look into as far as specifics, especially a lot of the times in the area that we are hosting the conference. And because a lot of the times, for instance, if we're in Minnesota, the issues here are different than in Washington or in Oregon or in Idaho or in California. So we've got to try and do a little bit better on that, at least on that end. What was your guys' favorite session that you went to this year? Feet of Trust. Feet of Trust. He says Feet of Trust. Casey, what about you? Feet of Trust? Chris is really good. Chris, getting a BLM surveyor in here helps a lot of people, I think. So that's what we're trying to reach out to, have people like that here. And we might even be pushing Chris onto the board. Who knows? We'll see. We've been talking to him about it because we like Chris a whole lot. Some of the other sessions that we went to, and I know that there's even one going on right now, which I think is about marijuana and hemp. So we're even trying to branch out a little bit on some kind of odd topics that are actually happening in Indian country. So what about you?
I'm not a Native American. My tribe moved to Sicily 3,000 years ago, so that's what I tell everyone. I've actually been working with Native Americans for about 10 years. I'm a Catholic evangelist. I go to and speak at the annual Catholic Tekakwitha Conference, and I'm working now with the USCCB in Washington, the Catholic bishops, which, by the way, are having 2 major gatherings with the tribes now on the issue of poverty. They finally are thinking, oh, wait a minute, we got to get on this. And it's partially because 2 years ago I went down the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, and it just changed my whole life almost right now, because that's most of my focus. But I'm leading up to a suggestion, if that's what it is. I'm really involved in public awareness. I've already been on Catholic radio several times. I give PowerPoint presentations on all of this with the problems related to, of course, it always goes back to the land. Okay, it goes back to the land. And so I've already been to Washington, D.C., knocking on doors, this kind of thing, trying to develop a relationship with state representatives such as Kristi Noem in South Dakota, who now is the governor, this and that. I'm wondering if this is a great session to learn, which is why I'm here. What are the complexities of the land? Maybe we should try to invite some congressional people. We're right next door to North Dakota. I think it's Halverson, am I pronouncing his name right? He's always putting pro-Indian legislation forward. You've got Cole down in Oklahoma, Young from Alaska, who proposed H.R. 215. Maybe we should try to invite people in Congress to learn more about the complexities of the land or other key people that can have an influence on public awareness and also pushing pro-Indian legislation. Because that's why I'm here. I'm trying to learn so I can understand the situation and be able to go into the public awareness area. So that's just a thought.
No, that's absolutely a great thought. And I think that at one point or another, we talked about trying to bring elected officials in. And I want to say that at one conference we did have somebody, but I can't remember who. I want to say at least 4 or 5 years ago. And that would be ideal if we could get them here.
Okay, I thought about that too. Now, every year in the beginning of February, first week in February, they have a social ministry gathering in Washington, D.C., and it's a Catholic-sponsored social justice ministry, and people from Washington can come in and attend. We take off to Washington since we're there to knock on doors. If you had maybe a couple of representatives there, you could probably get invited maybe even to the panel discussion there, because next year they will be bringing up the Native American issue more. It's starting to get more in a focus. So maybe look into that. The Catholic Social Ministry Gathering, Washington, D.C., there's a website. And try to get maybe a couple people there. I am working with Father Michael Carson at the USCCB. He's on the Committee for Native American Affairs. He's a speaker there. I spoke there already once. Great forum, because now you're rubbing elbows with people in Washington. You're right there. You're right there. So another thought. Okay.
No, thank you. That's that the ideal in trying to make that change at the Washington level is, I'm sure that all of us want a lot of change. And I know that a lot of these representatives and senators and they get bombarded, I think, by individuals just like us from all walks of life. And so it's finding those ones that are on our side, that are willing. There absolutely are some. Yes, there are. Yes. So I mean, that's definitely something we should look into. Let's say, did anybody go to a session that they just basically didn't learn anything? Raise your hand. Nothing? That's good. Okay, that's good to hear. Did any of you go to a session that you felt like just wasn't really needed in Indian country? No? Even better to hear. Okay. So I'm gonna pick on Jeff here real quick. Jeff is an exhibitor here. He's with KTGY. Jeff, as an exhibitor, what do you think we could do to improve for the exhibitors here at the conference?
I think you guys do a really good job. I've been to quite a few conferences for our industry, the architecture and planning industry around the United States, with ULI and APA and all these other groups. And I think you guys do a very good job in getting people into the exhibit hall with the stickers, things like that. I think adult beverages are always a good thing. If there's a way to incorporate the exhibit hall into the opening reception a bit, and make that kind of one cohesive thing, that I've seen that in the past, and that works really well. But that's about all I can think of. The stickers are great. We've had, like even today on the last day, we've had quite a few people kind of roaming through, which usually doesn't happen at the end of conferences. So, yeah, I think overall you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you, Jeff. We appreciate that. Yeah, the exhibitors, and the reason I pick on Jeff is because without them, without the sponsors, this stuff doesn't happen. And here comes Chris. He's rolling in. We're going to pick on him real quick. Tell us all about the BLM, Chris. You got how much time do we got here? No, I'm just picking on you. The exhibitors and the sponsors are really the sole reason we're able to do this conference every year. So we want to try and provide the best platform for those individuals, especially the exhibitors, because they're the ones showing up and having booths. So we want to try, to really, really push people through there to see, because these are all products that could actually benefit you in Indian country. So, Chris, I'm gonna pick on you real quick. Did you go to any sessions, anything that you liked? What was your favorite session? Hey, don't you love that? So you're the third person to say the Feet of Trust. Who was teaching the Feet of Trust? Was it 3? Was it? Oh, well then it's already bad. I don't know if did you walk in when they said Feet of Trust? Everybody saying Feet of Trust was the best session. Yay! Feet of Trust is a big deal. Big deal. And from what I can gather, and Brenda, might be able to correct me, but it's probably a little different everywhere, I would assume, just like everything else. But it's such a big thing in Indian country that, tribes are trying to reclaim their lands, and I know that there's a lot of hoops to jump through. That's why I steer clear of Feet of Trust. I'm not a fan of working on it, but it is a vital, pivotal thing to do in Indian country. So that's really cool to hear that, that session went real well. What about you guys? Nick, what about you? What session did you go to and you liked?
Well, I went to every session.
Yes.
A couple times.
Yes.
And I liked them all. It was great.
Boy.
I have to concur with Nick.
Ooh.
I didn't get an opportunity to go to a whole lot of sessions, but I was really kind of surprised how popular the land buyback program was. It's going through Indian country, and we just kind of thought that its process
Had died down.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was a little surprised with that, but I've heard good feedback, so that makes us feel good.
I didn't get to go to it, but I'm going to watch it when I get home, as the industrial hemp, because the Osage Nation is trying to roll out a process.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to go to that one myself this morning, but
Me too.
we'll have to work on that next year when we go to do these schedules, so we can all. And unfortunately, yeah, I didn't get an opportunity to go to any of these sessions. So that was kind of a bummer for us, because there's so many neat topics out there. But I think overall, and the sessions themselves, I think benefited everybody. I'm not hearing anything bad about any of the sessions. And like I said, that's what we want to keep doing, is get the education out there, get the knowledge out there. So yeah, I was okay with it.
I think I got to play Vanna yesterday in Casey Ross's all-day seminar, so I really enjoyed that. She started out with just the basics, teaching everybody this is what APRI is, how this works, some of the implications, and then the basics of how to get a will. I mean, everybody who owns trust property, Indian property,
You better have a will.
needs a will, and I think she was very informational. Very engaging. She's just got a great personality. So I enjoyed those sessions.
Yeah, Casey's, I think, been off and on doing sessions with NTLA since the second conference, I believe, second or third. I met her at the third, and I gravitated towards Casey because she's from Oklahoma City like I am. And Casey does an amazing, amazing job. She really is really good. And so if you guys, I'm sure that we will have a probate session again next year. I hope it will be with Casey, but you should definitely attend it, especially if you're a landowner. If you're a landowner and you don't have a will, I'm gonna walk over and look you dead in the eye and say, go get a will right now. It's very, very important. The other, I'll pick on Karen a little bit as well, is that the compacting and contracting class went very, very well. We had quite a good attendance in here, and I thought that was a really, really good one too as well. And then I also, I sat in on, for just a few minutes on, did anybody go to the Esri lab in here? Nobody? Next year, if you come, go to the Esri lab. It's actually really, really cool and really interesting. Yeah, you may not end up doing it in your job, but knowing just even some of that base information is really, really cool, because what they do is a very cool little project. Like we brought up at the beginning of the session, we are going to be in Minnesota again next year. We kind of decided that we were going to do a kind of like a 2-year schedule, and everywhere we were, wherever we chose, we were going to, decide to stay there for 2 years. Somebody say, throw out a place where you think we should go next. Does anybody have an idea? He says Washington, D.C. That'll be crazy. What else? Somebody give us another idea. Because we've been to Las Vegas, we've been to Coeur d'Alene, so we've been to Idaho, we've been to California, we did it at Paula, we did it last year in Tulsa and Oklahoma. Where else? What else am I forgetting? Tamaya, that's right, yes. We also did New Mexico. So does anybody have another idea of a place that we haven't hit? I know Washington is probably a big one. Washington or Oregon. South Dakota's not a bad idea. The South Dakota thing and the Dakotas, the hard thing is the airport, is getting to and from, certain tribal nations that are 2 to 3 hours away from the airport. So, yeah, no, it's not a bad idea. That's why I'm asking you guys is because we're open to the suggestions. We've kind of racked our brains, and we'll send out RFPs to these tribes. And that, I guess, let's say this by a show of hands: would you like us to keep it going into Indian country, or would you rather go to like Vegas or Los Angeles or something like that? Show of hands, keeping it in Indian country. Okay, there we go. Simple enough. We talked with Talking Stick, I do believe. We've talked with almost every tribe that actually is capable of handling the conference. And that's the hard part is that there's the majority of the tribes, even that have casinos and hotels, they don't have a big enough hotel a lot of the times. I know Talking Stick does, and we might be looking into that. Do you have a question? Is it at least 300 rooms? Yeah. It's at least 300 rooms. I think that's our kind of our. Is it a little higher than that? Yeah. And see, that's the thing is so Nick is saying, and this is the man to ask, is 350 to 400 rooms, which is a lot of rooms, and that eliminates a large amount of Native American tribes. Now, the majority of the Native American tribes that built hotels and casinos in this country started about 8-9 years ago, 10 years ago, maybe a little bit, more or less. So a lot of them are actually starting to expand right now. For instance, just out where I live in Southern California, Saboba just built a brand new hotel and casino. Morongo is, upgrading and building a new tower, new casino expansion. So there's a lot of tribes out there that have, a hotel, but it's just not even just not quite big enough. Even my tribe, and Casey works for my tribe, we have a beautiful hotel and casino, but it's just not quite big enough. So that's kind of a big battle. We want to go to a lot of these places, but we have to have the facilities and the space to actually do it. What about you guys? You guys tell us about your experience this year at the conference. Who wants to go first? It's going to be Nick.
One thing I always enjoy, kind of reflecting on the conversation we're just now having, it's great that we keep the conference in Indian country on Indian land, and getting the tribe who's hosting involved in the process, and so having more of a cultural presence will be something that we're trying to make happen as well, appropriate welcomes, and because we are, for instance, on Dakota land, and so that's important to the association, as we're moving forward with the conference itself. And I think going forward, we've entertained the idea of going back to Vegas, but there's just something really about going to Indian country again, putting money into Indian country, helping Indian country to develop economically in whatever ways that we can. And when we have a conference like this, that's exactly what happens. And so we want to keep doing that. I think as far as this conference is concerned, one of my most important pieces about this year was the food, which was great.
How was the food? Show of hands. Especially the breakfast. I was digging the breakfast.
Yeah. Last year we had, just a few remarks about how we don't really want continental breakfast. We want something warm. So I said, okay, fine. We're going to have warm food. And we had this big buffet every day. So hopefully everybody had their fill for sure. Everyone's been so kind and nice. I think this is probably the first year I've been at the conference. I've been doing this for 5 years now. Where I've gotten hugs randomly from people that I don't know yet, saying this is an amazing conference. And that's encouraging, and it feels great, right? It feels really, really nice, and I don't say no to hugs, okay? That doesn't mean you have to give me one after this, but they're nice sometimes. And then I've also appreciated some of the information that we have in our sessions. I did go to all of them, but there were a few that were interest of me. Like yesterday, I was able to talk a little bit about a summer internship program that the Indian Land Tenure Foundation provides. So for different land offices, the foundation will give some small grants to hire 1 or 2 high school students to work in a land office or land-related office. And we had 2 students here at this conference this week who've, for the very first time, been away from home. They have their parents with them too this time, but they got to see something new and participate in something new. And if you were in yesterday's session, it was yesterday afternoon, 3:30, so it was pretty late, but if you were there, you would hear the passion in these young ladies' voices. It's remarkable that even though we provide the funding to do a land internship, their experiences overall were so influential in some of their more overall feelings about how their tribe works, some of the issues that their specific tribes are facing. And it's heartwarming to see that passion, that interest in 17 and 18-year-olds, for sure. And so being able to do this kind of work at the conference, at the foundation where I'm employed, is so rewarding. And coming to this conference after a year of planning for it is also very rewarding. And so, we're certainly grateful for that.
For myself, I think I came on board with NTLA the second year that it was organized, and through the support of my employer and, of course, Indian Land Tenure Foundation. And there just wasn't really any training or education out there on Indian lands for land professionals. And so we were really excited about starting a land certification program. And so I think we're in our second year of the land certification. Yeah. And we've seen I see the same faces year after year and new ones. So it's exciting to see that people are learning something and are excited to come to our conference. I think we're one of 2 that offer any education in Indian country on Indian lands. And we're just real excited about it, and we're happy that we're able to host this every year, and look forward to its continued growth.
I'm going to go off of Kathy. When I moved over to Realty at Osage, I had no idea what I got myself into. Thankfully, a woman that worked at BIA had transferred over with us, had 30 years of knowledge. But if it wasn't for her, I don't know how successful we would have been. So I do think that a conference like this is necessary. It's needed. For people, younger people too, coming in, they have people to ask questions and say, hey, just because your agency or your region says you can't do this, challenge it. I encourage you to. I challenge them every day, and so far, I'm moving forward. So that's my takeaway.
Let's see. I really enjoy every year that I come to this conference that I see familiar faces. I see people that come to this conference every single year, and it is just awesome. This board, we work our butts off all year long trying to plan these conferences, and when we all get together, it's like, home week. We just love seeing each other. So I really enjoy that part. It really makes you feel really good about what you do.
What was the question?
Are you paying attention?
So I think one of the big takeaways from this conference, sort of just to build on everybody else. First of all, I think this is the first conference that I've participated in where we didn't have some major crisis that somebody was running around going, oh my gosh, what are we going to do about this? I think it's gone very, very smoothly, even to the extent where we lost a couple of our speakers, shortly beforehand, but we were able to sort of come back and get some fill-ins. So I think that worked out very well. But I agree that the education is crucial. I mean, we've got a lot of lawyers here. We have great lawyers that did presenting. Pilar sitting in the back. But even for us, we deal with the legal aspects of it, but sometimes there's some basic, down and dirty what the realty departments are doing that we don't necessarily know or deal with every day. And to get a chance to see and learn and understand better what the realty departments are doing is extremely helpful, I think. And so I think as my final note, I'm going to piggyback on what Karen said, because we love each other. We have a great time. And so I will put in one more plug. If anybody's interested in, it sounds like a lot of work, and it is a lot of work, but it's one of those, it's a lot of work, but a lot of reward to be on the board and to help put these things on. So I encourage people, if you have even an inkling of, hey, I've got some ideas for a conference, even if you don't want to be on the board, come and let us know. New classes, new ideas, some kind of session that we haven't ever had that you think would be perfect.
Yeah, I'm just gonna echo all the sentiments, from all of them is that this conference, when, Karen talks about we spend all year building up to this and putting all this energy into it. And then when we get here, the first couple hours, everybody's a little bit on edge. We really, really want to do the best for you guys. And then once we kind of get past that first couple hours, everybody kind of levels off a little bit, and we get to actually enjoy it. And that's really cool. We, the majority of us sitting here have known each other for 5-6 years. And even with Katie, who's been on here just a couple years, we feel like we know Katie, but everybody else, we've all known each other for a good chunk of time. And so when we get to come here every year, because we talk over the phone, we see each other usually once, maybe if we're lucky, twice a year. So everything that we do is through email and through the phone. And then we just show up in some random spot in the United States and go, hey, let's throw a conference. And it somehow works itself out every year. And last year was kind of the same. We didn't really have a major hiccup, and this year even as well. Like Brenda said, every year we have a speaker or something, somebody drop out or something like that. It's inevitable. It's always going to happen. But we do our best to fill it, fill the spot, find somebody, and usually we do, even sometimes on a week notice. And it's unfortunate. We had 2 board members as well, and if you were here at the beginning of the conference, I spoke about it. Normally, up right now, who would be speaking to you right now would be Andrew Orozco Jr. And Andrew, who's our chairman, and is going to be our chairman again next year as well. He really, really wanted to come, and his tribal council told him he had to stay and work on a project, and so he's got to stay. And I spoke to him on the phone, and he was incredibly, incredibly angry about it. He really, really did want to come, and because we do put that much effort into this, and it kind of sometimes seems like when you're walking around, it all kind of seems seamless, like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. There's so many moving parts, and Nick, I'm sure, will nod his head to that there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of people that we're bringing in, 15 plus exhibitors, 15 plus sponsors, 25 plus speakers, dealing with the board, all of the above. So it really is. It's a kind of crazy task that that we put upon ourselves, but we do it because we really truly believe in it. And there's a reason why a lot of us have been on this board for so many years. And to echo what Brenda said, I'll plug as well, is that this board, we do need new people. We want to have new people come on. We want to bring new people into the fold because we want to keep moving this in a positive or different direction every year. And so that's kind of why we've been reaching out to people, and kind of selling NTLA in a sense is that we really truly believe in it, and we want you guys to believe in it. We want you guys to come be a part of the board or even just volunteer and help us out if we're going to be in your region for the conference or whatever it is. But we want you guys to be passionate about what you do. I made the decision, God, now I'm coming into my 9th year of doing this. And I made that decision about a year into me doing this. I decided, you know what, this is going to be my career. And I just said, all right, because I came from working in the oil and gas business in Oklahoma, which is what practically everybody in Oklahoma does. They're usually, you either 1 in 4 jobs in Oklahoma are tied to the oil and gas business. And I actually, I got laid off when the big recession hit with oil in 2010, 2011. And I went to my tribe and spoke with my vice chair, and she found me a job in about 3 days. And so I kind of felt like, I wanted to pay back. I wanted to work for my tribe. I wanted to, pay them back. They helped me go to school. And sure enough, about a year into it, I kind of realized, wow, this is really, really cool, and this is going to be my career. And the majority of us, we've dedicated the majority of our lives to doing this, and so it is pivotal that we bring new ideas, and that's why I'm glad you guys are here. We want those ideas. Just kind of moving on to, let's talk about maybe next year's conference. What would you guys like to see next year at the conference? Is there anybody that has an idea of a session or something like that we can do at next year's conference? Okay, we got 2 here. I'm gonna go down the line here.
I would love to see Feet of Trust.
You want to do Feet of Trust? Just more Feet of Trust? Okay. What else about Feet of Trust would you like to see?
As far as like
Oh, buddy.
Yeah, I want to hear.
Who in here has access to TAMs?
Somebody's having
Oh, buddy, we're all having the same issues. Trust me.
100%. We won't
Yeah, I was about
use
to say, who
it.
doesn't want to have access to TAMs? Raise your hand. Ooh, that you make a really good point, and honestly, we probably should do a session about that.
Yeah.
I think was it last year or 2 years ago we had CGI here, and it's not CGI's fault. they're the ones that are just implementing the program, the software itself. It's coming from the BIA. And I could probably sit here and talk for 30 or 45 minutes about the new A&D module and how it's the most insane thing I've ever seen in my life. But that's a great idea, Casey. And Karen will tell you all about it. We've been going round and round in our office about that. And just to explain to anybody that doesn't know what we're talking about, TAMS, which is the Trust Asset Account Management System, and it's basically the government computer software system to encode all of land transactions. And it's probably the best way to describe it. But the BIA rolled out in December and kind of really at the beginning of the year a new way to do gift deeds and land sales, and it's been a pain in our neck since it came out. And because it is completely different than the way it has been done for the last 60 years. So it wasn't something that was it was a drastic change. That's the difference. It wasn't small, it wasn't minute, and so now we're having to explain to tribal members, hey, this is the new process, and they're kind of looking at us going, what? A lot of them have, especially that have done it before, that have gift deeded something off to, one of their relatives a couple years ago, and now we tell them, oh, it's completely different. So, Casey, that's a great idea. We tried to get the BIA involved, actually. And because of the shutdown this year, it was very limited to the amount of government employees, except for Chris, just because he's a madman. We really get we try to get some BIA employees involved because we want their side out there as well. And I always say this, and we know that sometimes working with the Bureau and just working with the government overall can be difficult, but the fact of the matter is that they're always going to be there. And so it's one of those things that we try to work with them. Working with them is going to get you a whole lot further than working against them. And so I'm hoping that next year we are able to bring some BIA people in, and maybe even have a kind of overall arching topic about A&D or TAMS, or even just a meet and greet session, something like that, where they can just, people can lob questions at them. You'd be surprised, there's actually a few BIA employees out there that like doing that actually like sitting down and interacting with people. They do exist. So that's a great idea. Does anybody have another idea about any session they want to see, any topic? Cultural. Anybody want to see more cultural? I actually do. We got okay. Environmental. Anybody want to see more environmental? Are we pretty good on environmental? Oh, it sounds like we're good on environmental. Now what else would you like to see? And that's ideal. The thing is I think Feet of Trust for a lot of tribes as well is they have grand ambitions, and they want it to happen very, very quickly. And there's nothing about Feet of Trust that is quick. And I think that there's a reason for that, but it sounds like we need to have some sessions that are kind of geared around, Feet of Trust in all its avenues. So we'll definitely look into that. Go ahead. Oh no, I've seen it happen. I mean, just personally, I've seen it be successful at Morongo. I saw it be incredibly successful at Citizen Potawatomi when I was working with my tribe. It can happen, and a lot of it actually, I think, also is just trial and error. And after you do a few, you start to get better and better at it, and that's kind of what happens. Is that you learn the pitfalls, you learn what what the BIA is specifically looking for, and with each successful one, it gets a little bit easier, and at least that's how it looks like in my eyes. And so, sounds like we're going to need to do a little bit of Feet of Trust sessions next year, and that's not a bad thing. If that's what you guys want to see, that's what we'll do.
Oh. While you're walking back to Pilar,
Yeah.
I was going to say, just as an add-on, it is incredibly helpful and important to have a great application, have it go smoothly, but maybe we can get something, and maybe Pilar would be a great person to help because she's been in the administration and whatnot, but you get to the end of it and you get the BIA to give you your notice of decision, and then the county or the city or your neighbors all decide that they don't think that they want that. And so now you've got a, 2 to 10-year odyssey of going through appeals or litigation or whatnot. So, maybe something even at the tail end like that, like, what do you do if you suddenly get appealed?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a big fan of tribes proposing changes to the rules instead of waiting for our trustee to propose changes to their own rules. I never understood why FIDA Trust had to go to the IBIA, quite frankly. But that's a regulatory process. We could propose something different. I think tribes should think about that. So that would be one thing. I actually think it would be nice to see some more discussion of the federal laws and federal regulations that control our ability to take land into trust or manage our land. And where would we change it? What would we like to see? And what kind of options do we have to, and not necessarily advocate from here, but certainly put together proposals that could be used in Congress or in bureaucracy for the changes we'd like to see. Why wait for them to come to us and go, oh, we finally decided to look, and they had their failed 151 effort. I saw it as a great opportunity for us to say, thanks, but we'd propose this. We think this is a faster and better way to do it. If you claim efficiency, here's our efficiency responses. Instead, we got very reactive, right? So that would be one thing. It'd be, to maybe think about a longer-term effort to try and be more proactive on the federal regulatory side and legislative side. But that was just follow on to Brenda's invitation. I think I would like to see, and I think I see this in an outline for the schedule, this conference, but maybe a specific track of specific land development activities and kind of the anatomy of that particular type of activity. So, the anatomy of doing an energy project, the anatomy of doing an industrial park project, the anatomy of doing a retail project, the anatomy of doing, you had housing yesterday, I think, right? And then, I did kind of a thing on the legal infrastructure. But to drill down and say, okay, well, what specific type of tribal laws do we need to develop for this type of development? What type of regulatory oversight and land management plans and land management considerations do we need for this type of development? And kind of make some of this stuff that's academic more concrete and more practical, and bring in people who have done massive retail development. And what do their land people do? And what do we do on the energy side? So I think kind of putting more practicality and stuff. I love to hear, I'm a lawyer, so I like to hear the academic aspect of things, but actually showing a project and using it as a very specific case study. I think yesterday the Harthack case studies were there. But putting something very concrete up there, and what did they do, and how did they do it, and what were the things they considered, both practical, both legal, both political, because this is the idea of, the city and county complain when there's no benefit to them. So, what happens when they don't complain? What kind of benefits are we seeing? So those kinds of things. So that would be my suggestion, would be kind of have a track of specific development type projects and the anatomy of doing those projects from a land development standpoint.
And, I just want to, Pilar and I are going to have a conversation now, but I think for this organization, right, so to get back to the organization and this forum, you guys are the ones on the ground. We deal with councils, we deal with people who don't know the day-to-day aspects of what you guys go through. And I think it's important, especially as Pilar's saying, if we want to say this is what we want to see, it's you guys. It's the realty staff. It's the environmental staff. It's the people who are doing this every day that needs to, come out and say this is how it should be better. Because I know, a lot of councils, they've got all kinds of stuff going. So they just rely on their staff to hopefully explain enough for them to say, yeah, I can go do this or I can go do that. So I mean, I love the idea of the basics. I mean, that's sort of one of the things that's always excited me about a lot of this, and the curriculum as well, is that, you know, let's get an A to Z, you know, at least outline on here's what we need to do.
And you know, just to piggyback off all of that as well is that I think that there is a definite, you know, case to be made to going back to the basic stuff and relearning it sometimes every now and then. And so, you know, to kind of have that, the CFR, you know, going through all that, which is, you know, some wonderful light reading if you want to fall asleep in 10 minutes. You know, trying to explain the CFR to somebody is just, it's insane. But, you know, that's one of those things that maybe we also need to do, is we need to kind of go back to some of the basics on certain things, the frameworks, you know, how it's built up. And so that's a great idea as well. And, you know, also to, you know, echo those sentiments about, you know, pushing against the BIA and asking for change. I'm a big fan of that. I don't know, you know, show of hands, who likes actually, you know, pushing against the BIA to try and, you know, get some change done. I'm a fan of it. You know, the thing is that, you know, if it's not locked down in federal regulations, and me and Brenda were talking about this, then you can talk about it. You know, there's avenues for you to, you know, make some change within your region or with your agency or whatever. Is you've just got to ask. You know, you've got to start fighting back a little bit and go, why are you doing this? Show me where, you know, show me where you can do this. And, you know, that's a big thing, at least, you know, my experience, especially the last few years at Morongo, is we kind of ask those questions. You know, even when I was at CPN, we were still doing that. You know, we were asking those questions. Why are we doing this? What, you know, explain to us why we have to go jump through this hoop or that hoop or whatever it is. And, you know, but also, you know, like I said, getting back to the basics of that as well might help in that. So that's a great idea. What else? Let's see. I mean, I'm trying to think of, you know, we did have appraisals, we had surveys, we had, you know, so I asked about cultural. Is there anything else you guys can think of? You know, we had master planning this year. Did anybody go to Ken Ryan's master plan class? Yeah, we got one. I know I see a couple people that were in there. That's a really cool and interesting class too, especially for tribes that are kind of trying to take that next step. You know, planning out the next 10, 20, 50 years for the tribe. It's a really cool class, and Ken is a great speaker. So he does a really cool session every year, and I think this is his second year to do it. What else? I'm trying to think of other topics. Obviously, you know, we're missing right now. You know, Eric Giles is doing the hemp and marijuana one, and that's an interesting one. Because it's still such a taboo topic in Indian country, but that was one of those ones this year that we wanted to have kind of a wild card, you know, session, and I think that's the one. And I think I like doing one of those every year, so I'm you know, glad that we had the opportunity to do something like that. Is there anything else anybody, you know, would like to see next year? Anything at all? Don't all raise your hands at once. Nothing? Okay. Well, ultimately, you know, the point of this session, you know, is to learn from you guys. I know that they've been taking notes over there like crazy, because we really are going to try and implement a lot of this stuff that you guys have brought to us. We're going to try and make those changes, and so hopefully we can, you know, we can bring those types of changes to you guys next year and provide you guys. We want to do better every year, and in my humble opinion, I think we have. I mean, I really do think that we've progressively gotten a little bit better. We've learned from our mistakes, and we've tried to, you know, really apply the things that you guys tell us, because it's not just even in this session. We have people that walk up to us all the time and go, hey, you should do this, or hey, you should have a hot breakfast, or hey, you know, which was a big one. Like, you know, last year, when that's why Nick brought it up, is people were mad about the breakfast. Okay, then we'll fix the breakfast, no big deal. But even beyond that, just the sessions, the topics, the core stuff, the locations, So, when you see us, and even when you see us outside of this, if you have an idea, in the middle of the middle of next year, email us, let us know. NTLA.info, the website's there. There's National Tribal Land Association Facebook page. Please go and join and like it. You can reach out to us on there. You can reach out to us on the website. We're open and available to listen to any ideas that you guys have, or anybody that you think would be a great speaker next year. Maybe you went to a conference and you saw somebody speak and you go, wow, that was very educational, very informative, and he was a great speaker. I'd like to see him at this conference do it again. Let us know who that person is. We want to hear all that information. These individuals right here, have worked incredibly hard, over the year to bring this. And so, thank you to you guys. You guys have done an amazing job. We truly passionately believe in this. And so we want to keep moving forward. We want this to go on for the next 10 or 20 years, hopefully. I'd like to see this conference last for eternity if possible. So, the what, I'm sorry? Oh, yes. So the credentialing program, and let me see if I can pull it up here real quick. Okay, so as you guys can see up here on the monitor, up on the screen, and actually, you know what? I'm just going to let you talk about it because you know more about it than even I do.
So for a number of years now, we've been having conversations about ways to professionalize careers in tribal land offices, generally speaking. And so in the past 2 years, as Kathy mentioned just a little bit ago, we've launched the first classes in our level 1 group of courses. And so the whole idea is to, as I said, professionalize those careers in land offices by creating professional standards and academic standards that seek to provide a better understanding for those who are taking the classes. We're providing a credential by way of a certification program to be able to do that. We partner with the United Tribes Technical College, based up out of Bismarck, North Dakota, to provide official certification of your completion. And so you'll get a certificate in the mail if you've enrolled and you've taken the class and you've completed it. You have to complete it. It's not just an enrollment and that's it. You actually have to complete a rigorous amount of coursework. It's not so much difficult. It's not the point. The point is to get anyone who enrolls in the classes to think about the issues. And if you're working in a land office now, which is exactly how the program is built, it's for those who are already working in those offices or those who maybe are about to, perhaps, to learn some of those basics initially. So we have 3 levels. Level 1 provides basic information in 4 different courses on a variety of those topics related to those courses. Introduction to Land Acquisition, Land Management and Planning, General Realty, Real Estate Principles and Practices. You'll take some exams in some of them, but they're not to be really difficult. They're just to help you to get through and to test what you know. And then you'll go through information. You'll have little writing assignments. Again, I'm not grading on grammar. We're not looking at that. We're looking to see if you're able to go through the information through the course and to assess it in a way for yourself and articulate it in a more meaningful way, not something that's just copy and paste from some document that we have there in the course. Level 2 courses, which registration opens in April for Level 2, which means that from then on out, you'll be able to enroll in any course in Level 1 and any course in Level 2. They're set to begin this summer, so we're excited about that as well. That's a little more application-based. So you'll have to think even more deeply about some of the topics and issues that you might face in a land office. You may not. You yourself may not actually deal with one of the issues that you have to go through, but it's more important that you have experience and some exposure to some of those issues than not. That way, if something does come up for whatever reason, or maybe you're working with a colleague from another tribe or from another office within your tribe, then you could perhaps help. You'll at least have access to those resources through the website. Level 3 will open for registration this autumn, and that'll be our final level in the certification program as we know it right now. that will require actual in the field, on-site work. You have to get a certain number of hours to be able to complete that certification courses. There'll be 4 courses there too, which means there are going to be 12 courses overall. But that level 3 is a capstone. You know, and you would submit paperwork, you'd have a supervisor signature, you would do exactly what you would do with any other institution of higher education, and you would then get credit for that. At the end of your courses, if you complete all 12, you'll get an even nicer certificate from NTLA, ILTF, and United Tribes, making sure that you and your employers know exactly what you've been able to accomplish and that you're a certified land professional. And while you may already be a land professional, at least you'll have that certification to put on your resume and to be able to encourage others to do the same. And so that's kind of the whole point of what this program is supposed to be, as it is right now. And I'm positive over the next 5 years, we're going to keep adding to it. You know, I want to see this thing grow even more. And so, you know, stay tuned, you know, keep in touch. Try one of the classes out if you haven't already and see what you think and give me some feedback. You know, you can't say it's too hard. I won't take that. But give me some feedback about maybe what you want to see in it. You know, what you hope to see to accomplish yourself in this as well.
It's an incredibly cool thing, honestly. And especially for new individuals, if you are in a realty office, but not even, it does not have to be within a realty office. It can be within environmental or land management or whatever it is, but it is a really cool thing.
Yeah, just to follow up on what Matt said, some of our students in the class right now, we have over 60 professionals in the certification program right now. I interact with many of them already, and I see many of them here on site. But I just want to say too, you know, something kind of related to the program and to the conference. We have about 1/4 to 1/3 of the participants in this year's conference are brand new to the conference. We have never seen them before. And so when I got here the other day and we started seeing more people arrive, I'm like, I haven't seen some of these people. Some of these people I recognize, like this beautiful woman here in the front in the green. I've seen you here like every year, you know. I know that. But it's also exciting because at our conference and in our certification program, actually it necessitates the need for the certification program. We see a lot of new people in these jobs, you know, and so that really does satisfy a gap and a learning experience for new people in tribal land offices.
And this is Nick's baby. Like, Nick loves this more than anything, and he's done an amazing job with it. When we first started working on it with him, we kind of felt like it was just such a monumental task, but it was so important to us because, at least with my experience, I learned on the fly, and I wish I would have had something like this. You know, I wish I would have had something that, you know, showed me the steps one by one, real estate principles, and then, you know, and just so on. And in general realty, you know, some of that stuff, you know, it took me a good 6-8 months to get it down, you know, just by applying it on the job. If I would have had this, you know, to start off with, you know, right out the gate, it probably would have cut out a 1.5 years worth of, you know, learning on the job and trial and error that every office experiences in Indian country or in a real Indian realty office. Because the fact is that there's probably less than a couple hundred of us in the country. We are in a very, very unique job, especially just within, you know, tribal realty or BIA realty. It's a unique job, and there's no college for it. You know, there's nothing like that. So it's not like I can go and get, you know, an MBA or, you know, whatever at any college across the country. You know, yes, there is some colleges across the country that are now starting to step up and have some more Indian land law and Indian case law and stuff like that, but not being a general realty specialist in Indian country. And so this certification program that Nick has built it's incredibly cool. And I think that like I said, if you have new people in your office, or even if you have somebody that's been there 5-10 years, they might find something and learn something in this. It's at a great, you know, cost point. It's not crazy expensive. It's not like you're gonna have to, you know, go and buy books, you know, like you're in college again. It's not like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so if you consider, the cost of it's $100 per class, and that's the price for each class through all 12 courses, which means you'll pay $1,200 to get a complete certification. That's a bargain, and you get a lot of resources for as long as you'd want to have them. We're not going to just cut you off after 6 months, and so you're getting quite a bit for the price, and so it's certainly something. And for many of those who are already registered, their tribes are paying for it, and that's totally fine too, And so it's it's expensive, it's accessible. If you haven't looked into it already, I do strongly encourage you to do so, because I don't think you'll regret it.
I totally agree. I don't think you will either. And like I said, take it back to your bosses. Take it back to the people that are in power within your tribe or within your organization or whatever you do. And let them know that this stuff exists, because they might, with that next person they hire, they might actually utilize it. Yeah, maybe you don't want to do it, or you don't need to do it, or you don't feel you need to do it, which, I've even said that myself. But it's, sometimes you need to have that refresher. So this is also even good for people that have been doing this forever. So please check it out, because it really is. It's truly special. And like I said, Nick's worked incredibly hard on it and put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it. And, he's passionate about that. But not only him, all of us are. We really, really loved the training certification program, because that was a big push for us, and we worked well with ILTF on it, and they made it happen, and it's a one-of-a-kind thing. So really do please check it out. Let's see, does anybody have anything else? We're going to try and wrap this up here real quick. Does anybody have anything else they would like to comment about the conference, or ideas? Negative things, that's okay. You can, if you have something you disliked, is there anything anybody else would like to see, like for us to improve? Nothing? Board, would you guys like to talk about anything before we wrap it up? Nobody? Oh. Hit me with it.
No, I just wanted to thank you for your dedication and putting this on. It's not easy, and y'all have regular jobs, so I appreciate y'all.
No, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. No, yeah, we all do have regular jobs. This is not our job, although it feels like it every now and then, but not really. And that's what we were talking about joining the board or volunteering with the board. This isn't something that is so over the top that you couldn't handle it or you couldn't be a part of it. It is literally 2 phone calls a month, usually about 2 hours out of the month, and then leading up to the conference, it gets a little bit deeper, because we're just trying to sort everything out, make sure everything's working properly. But this organization, it's one of a kind. It is, we've got land professionals from all over the country. So I've reached out to the people on the board numerous times about questions I had, that I couldn't answer, all kinds of things like that, where I have this networking opportunity now of people that, not only have we become friends, but we've also, we're professionals as well, and we're learning off of each other. And that's really, really cool, because sometimes, and maybe it's just me, but sometimes, I get lost in the weeds a little bit, and I feel like that there's, it's the world's crashing down on me, or something like that. And it's good to have a little bit of support and a little bit of backup. And we really, really enjoy doing this. So, thank you, sir. We appreciate that, because we do enjoy doing this, and it's a lot of fun for us. Like I said earlier, when we get here, once after that first couple hours, of the beginning of the conference, we all kind of settle down, and then we start having fun. And, we really do enjoy it. So, if there's no other suggestions, comments, concerns, queries, we got one more.
So I'm totally just following on what you said. So thank you to all of you, but also thank you to Mystic Lake. And if you could just let them know how much we appreciate all that they've done.
Absolutely. No, Shakopee and Mystic Lake have been incredibly grateful and helpful to us. And what a beautiful facility. we were here 5 years ago before this was built. And not to sit there and say that the other exhibitor hall was not, you know, a great and wonderful thing, but this is really, really nice. I haven't seen one this nice actually in Indian country. So, you know, Shakopee and Mystic Lake here they've got a one-of-a-kind facility here. And so I think we lucked out that we're going to also be here again next year as well, because we've got ourselves a really, really nice, you know, place to do this. So we will definitely convey that over to them. They deserve it.